You think pirates simply suffered from dehydration at sea, but they had mastered techniques for dealing with seawater that saved countless lives during long voyages. Here's the thing about seawater that sounds completely backwards. Drinking it when you're dying of thirst will actually kill you faster. Yeah, you heard that right. The ocean is literally everywhere around you, but taking even a few gulps makes your body panic and start shutting down. The salt content in seawater is about 3 times higher than what your kidneys can handle. When you drink it, your body desperately tries to dilute all that salt by pulling water from your cells and organs. You end up losing more fluid than you gained. It's like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. Pirates figured this out the hard way during those brutal months at sea. Ships back then were basically floating wooden boxes with limited storage space. Fresh water took up massive room in barrels, and captains had to choose between carrying more water or more supplies for trading and fighting. Most chose supplies, thinking they'd figure out water later. Bad choice. Crews would watch their water supplies dwindle day after day. Desperate sailors would sneak sips of seawater when no one was looking, only to become violently ill within hours. Their bodies would cramp up, they'd get severe diarrhea, and their minds would start playing tricks on them. Some pirates reported seeing fresh water springs on the horizon that weren't actually there. The smart captains quickly learned that thirst could destroy a crew faster than any enemy cannon. Stories spread through every port about ships found drifting empty, their crews dead from dehydration while surrounded by endless water. These weren't just scary tales, they were warnings. Clean drinking water became more valuable than pieces of eight. Seriously, pirates would guard their water barrels like treasure chests because that's exactly what they were. When water ran low, even the most loyal crew members would turn violent. Mutinies started over water rations more often than unfair treasure splits. Captain Blackbeard himself once said his biggest fear wasn't the Royal Navy, it was running out of drinking water with 2 weeks left at sea. Smart pirates realized they needed to become water experts or risk watching their crews die of thirst in the middle of the world's largest ocean. The irony was perfect and deadly. Pirates spent their lives chasing gold and silver, but the most precious liquid on their ships was completely colorless and tasteless. Water meant survival, and survival meant everything else became possible. But here's where pirates got creative. They started developing tricks that would make modern engineers impressed. After learning that seawater was basically liquid death, pirates had to get creative fast. Their first instinct? Look up at the sky and pray for rain. But they couldn't just stand there with their mouths open like confused pelicans. Smart crews rigged up elaborate rainwater collection systems using whatever they had. Tarps and sails became giant funnels, stretched tight across the deck. The trick was positioning everything just right so rainwater would flow down into barrels instead of splashing uselessly back into the ocean. Makes sense, right? Here's where it gets interesting, though. Pirates quickly discovered that using dirty sails was like trying to drink through a sock that had been marinating in salt spray for weeks. Gross. So they developed a washing routine, cleaning their canvas thoroughly before any rain collection attempt. This meant precious time and fresh water spent on preparation, but it was worth avoiding that nasty brine taste. Then there were the gutters. Pirates became surprisingly good at improvised plumbing, creating channels and spouts from wood scraps, rope, and metal pieces. These makeshift systems could funnel every precious drop from the canvas straight into storage containers. Some crews got so good at this that they could collect dozens of gallons during a single storm. But wait, it gets weirder. When rain wasn't falling, desperate pirates turned to dew collection. They'd soak sheep hides or thick cloth overnight, leaving them exposed to the humid sea air. Come morning, they'd wring out whatever moisture had condensed. The amount was tiny, maybe a few cups per hide, but every drop counted when you're dying of thirst. The real problem with all these methods, weather doesn't follow pirate schedules. Ships could go weeks without decent rainfall, especially in certain parts of the Caribbean. Dew collection worked better in some regions than others, depending on humidity and temperature changes between day and night. Well, clever crews started combining techniques. They'd set up permanent rain-catching systems while also rotating dew collection duties among the crew. The most successful pirates treated water collection like a military operation. Everyone had specific jobs, and slacking off could mean death for the whole crew. And the weird part is, these early methods actually worked pretty well when conditions were right. Pirates could collect enough rainwater during a good storm to last several weeks, but relying entirely on weather meant gambling with everyone's lives. Unfortunately, Mother Nature wasn't always cooperative, which forced pirates to look for more reliable solutions. They needed something that didn't depend on clouds or humidity, something they could control themselves, even when the sky stayed stubbornly clear for weeks. Pirates might have thought they'd solved their water problems once they collected it, but storing the stuff? That was a nightmare wrapped in wood and sealed with false hope. Every pirate ship carried dozens of massive oak barrels called butts. And yes, that was their actual name. These weren't your garden variety containers either. We're talking about enormous wooden beasts that could hold 50 gallons or more, sealed tight with pitch and tar. But here's where things got disgusting fast. Water sitting in wooden barrels didn't just stay water for long. The wood itself would start rotting from the inside out, turning your precious drinking supply into a slimy, foul-smelling mess that tasted like someone mixed pond scum with old socks. Bacteria absolutely loved these dark, moist wooden homes and threw parties that would make your stomach turn inside out. Then there's the flavor problem nobody talks about. These barrels weren't brand new. They'd been used for storing everything from beer to rum to who knows what else. Your fresh water would pick up hints of whatever lived in that wood before. One day you're drinking water that tastes like stale ale. The next it's got notes of rancid rum. Makes sense, right? Wood absorbs everything like a thirsty sponge. Pirates discovered the hard way that their carefully collected rainwater would turn into toxic soup within days, sometimes hours in hot weather. The irony was brutal. You could die of thirst while surrounded by barrels full of liquid that would make you sicker than eating raw fish left in the sun. Well, desperate times called for desperate measures. Pirates weren't exactly known for giving up easily, especially when their lives depended on it. They started experimenting, trying anything that might keep their water from turning into a science experiment gone wrong. Some crews tried adding sand or cloth to the bottom of barrels, hoping it would filter out the nasty bits. Others rotated their water supplies, constantly moving liquid between barrels to prevent any one container from getting too gross. But these were just temporary fixes for a problem that demanded real solutions. And the weird part is, the answer was literally staring them in the face every time they looked at their barrels. The solution involved fire, chemistry, and a technique that would accidentally revolutionize how we make whiskey today. Pirates were about to become accidental scientists, and their next discovery would change everything about water storage forever. Pirates weren't exactly known for their scientific breakthroughs, but desperate times called for desperate measures. When your crew is dying of thirst and your water tastes like rotting fish soup, you get creative fast. Here's where things get interesting. Some clever pirate figured out that fire could actually save their water supply. They started deliberately burning the inside of their wooden barrels before filling them with precious drinking water. Sounds crazy? Well, this charring trick was pure genius, disguised as destruction. The process was simple, but brilliant. Pirates would light controlled fires inside empty oak barrels, letting flames lick and blacken the interior wood. They'd stop before the barrel fell apart, leaving behind a layer of charred, blackened wood coating the inside walls. Then they'd fill these burnt barrels with their water supply and wait for magic to happen. And the weird part is, it actually worked. That blackened wood layer wasn't just decoration, it acted like nature's own water filter. The charred surface grabbed onto nasty particles and bacteria that made water go bad quickly. Think of it as the world's first charcoal filter system, invented by guys who couldn't even read. Pirates noticed their charred barrel water stayed cleaner longer. Instead of turning green and slimy after just a few days, this filtered water could last weeks without becoming completely disgusting. The burnt wood didn't just trap bad stuff, it actually slowed down the growth of harmful microbes that thrived in regular wooden containers. What makes this even more amazing is that pirates accidentally stumbled onto something we still use today. Modern whiskey and bourbon makers char their barrels for similar reasons. That burnt wood changes the liquid inside, filtering out impurities and adding flavors. Pirates weren't trying to make fancy drinks, they just wanted water that wouldn't kill them. The charring method spread quickly among pirate crews because it actually saved lives. Word travels fast when you find something that keeps your crew from dying of thirst or poisoned water. Captains started ordering their men to char every water barrel before long voyages. But even this clever trick had limitations. Charred barrels still couldn't perform miracles with truly contaminated water, and the process used up precious wood and fire materials. Pirates needed backup plans when charring wasn't enough. Then there's something even more surprising that pirates discovered about keeping water fresh. They found that adding certain valuable metals to their water barrels created almost magical results that seemed impossible to believe. While pirates were busy charring their barrels and cursing at spoiled water, some clever captains discovered something fascinating. Tossing silver coins into water barrels wasn't just superstition, it was accidental genius. Those shiny pieces of 8 weren't there for luck, they were there for survival. Here's what happened. Pirates noticed that barrels containing silver coins stayed clearer longer. The water didn't turn that nasty green color as fast. It didn't smell like a swamp after 2 weeks at sea. Makes sense, right? Well, pirates didn't know they were dealing with one of nature's most powerful antibacterial agents. Silver kills bacteria. Not some of them, most of them. Modern science proves this works because silver ions mess with bacterial cell walls, basically destroying the little buggers before they can multiply. Pirates stumbled onto this centuries before anyone understood germs existed. They just knew their water lasted longer when precious metal sat at the bottom of the barrel. But here's the weird part. Some crews swore their silver-treated water tasted better too. Cleaner. Less like drinking liquid wood mixed with disappointment. Pirates would argue over which coins worked best. Spanish silver seemed popular, though nobody could explain why. Maybe it was purer. Maybe it was just pirate psychology at work. The really smart captains hoarded silver specifically for water treatment. When gold ran low, they'd keep their silver coins. Food could run out, rum could disappear. But water? That was life or death. Real treasure meant staying alive long enough to spend your plunder on land. Then there's the practical side. Silver coins were easy to retrieve when refilling barrels. Unlike other additives that dissolved or rotted, silver stayed silver. Pirates could fish out their coins, rinse them off, and toss them into fresh barrels. Recycling at its finest. Modern hospitals still use silver in medical equipment for the same antibacterial properties. Water purification systems sometimes include silver components. Those desperate pirates accidentally discovered something that high-tech industries use today. Not bad for guys who thought bathing was optional. Of course, silver wasn't perfect. It couldn't fix water that was already completely rotten. It worked best as prevention, not cure. Smart pirates learned to add their coins to fresh water immediately, not wait until problems started brewing. The silver trick spread through pirate fleets faster than gossip about buried treasure. Captains who ignored this method often found themselves dealing with sick crews and mutinous sailors demanding better water. But even silver had its limitations when storms lasted weeks and fresh water ran dangerously low. That's when pirates needed something more dramatic than coins and barrels. While silver coins and charred barrels helped keep stored water fresher, pirates still faced their biggest nightmare. Being surrounded by endless ocean, they couldn't drink. That's when the craftiest captains turned to what sounds like pure magic, turning deadly seawater into life-saving fresh water. The process called distillation wasn't new, but pirates had to get creative with ship materials. Boil seawater, catch the steam, let it cool back into water, and boom, the salt stays behind. Simple in theory, absolutely brutal in practice when you're rocking on ocean waves with limited fuel. Captain Bartholomew Roberts, one of the most successful pirates ever, actually ordered a special distillation rig built right into his ship. His crew thought he was crazy until they realized this contraption could save their lives during those endless weeks at sea. The setup used copper pots heated over carefully controlled fires with metal pans positioned to catch every precious drop of condensed steam. But here's where it gets interesting and dangerous. These rigs needed constant attention because one wrong move could start a ship fire. Pirates had to balance keeping the flame hot enough to create steam while not burning down their only escape route. Talk about high-stakes cooking. The fuel problem was massive too. Every piece of wood burned for distillation was wood that couldn't be used for cooking food or emergency repairs. Some crews got so desperate they started burning furniture, spare rope, even old boots, anything that would generate heat. The smell must have been absolutely terrible. Then, there's the speed issue nobody talks about. These homemade stills produced water incredibly slowly. We're talking maybe a few cups per hour if you were lucky. A thirsty crew of 30 pirates needed gallons daily just to survive, let alone stay healthy enough to fight or sail effectively. Smart pirates learned to time their distillation runs perfectly. They'd fire up the still during calm weather when the ship wasn't pitching wildly, making it easier to manage the delicate setup. Some crews even took turns staying awake all night to keep the process running continuously. The copper tubing pirates used often came from melted down coins, jewelry, or even stolen church items. Ironic that their plundered treasure literally became their lifeline. Pirates discovered that copper worked better than other metals because it conducted heat efficiently and didn't rust in the salty ocean air. Of course, distillation wasn't their only trick. When fuel ran low or storms made fire too risky, pirates had to get even more creative with their survival methods. While charcoal and silver were clever solutions, pirates didn't stop there. Desperate times called for desperate measures, and some crews got downright creative with their water-saving tricks. The most popular backup plan? Adding alcohol to their water barrels. Now, this wasn't about getting drunk, though that was probably a nice side effect. Pirates discovered that mixing a bit of rum or wine into their water actually slowed down the nasty bacteria that made water taste like swamp juice. The alcohol acted like a preservative, keeping their precious water supply drinkable for longer stretches at sea. Smart, right? But alcohol wasn't the only weapon in their arsenal. Some crews swore by adding vinegar to their water barrels. Vinegar's acidic bite didn't just mask the horrible taste of spoiled water, it actually fought off harmful microbes too. Pirates would also toss in citrus peels when they could get them, or whatever spices they had lying around. Cinnamon, cloves, anything that might cover up the funky flavors brewing in those wooden containers. Then there were the really desperate filtering attempts. Picture pirates trying to strain murky water through layers of sand stuffed into old cloth bags. Some crews used pieces of bread as makeshift filters, believing the grain would catch impurities. Did it work? Sometimes. Was it pretty gross? Absolutely. The weirdest concoction had to be what some sailors called pirate coffee. This bizarre drink mixed weak rum, questionable water, and whatever random herbs they could scrounge up from islands they'd visited. Mint leaves, strange berries, even ground-up tree bark. Anything to make their water situation more bearable. It probably tasted awful, but it was better than dying of thirst. Of course, not every experiment ended well. Some pirates tried using lead pipes or lead-lined pots for their water systems, thinking the metal would keep things fresh. What they didn't know was that lead slowly poisoned anyone who drank from it. Pirates would get sick, weak, and confused without understanding why their improved water setup was actually killing them. The trial and error approach cost lives, but it also led to genuine discoveries. Pirates were basically floating laboratories, testing wild theories about water purification while fighting for survival on the open ocean. While these makeshift solutions kept many crews alive, the most innovative pirates were already working on something far more ambitious. Some captains were experimenting with techniques that went way beyond simple filtering and flavoring, methods that could actually transform seawater itself into something drinkable through surprisingly advanced processes. When regular distillation wasn't cutting it, pirates got creative with animal bladders. These tough, stretchy sacks made perfect watertight bags for solar distillation. They'd fill a bladder with seawater, tie it shut, then hang it in direct sunlight. The heat would cause evaporation inside the bladder, and fresh water droplets would collect on the inner walls. Pirates could then carefully drain the condensed water through a small hole. Gross? Maybe. Effective? Absolutely. But why stop at hanging bags when you could go underground? Some crews discovered that burying clay pots filled with seawater created natural evaporation chambers. The Earth's steady temperature and the pot's porous surface worked together like a slow-motion still. Seawater would gradually seep through the clay walls, leaving salt crystals behind, while cleaner water collected in buried containers nearby. This method took patience, but it worked even when fuel was scarce. Then there's the seaweed trick that sounds almost too weird to believe. Pirates noticed that certain types of kelp and other seaweeds could actually help separate salt from water naturally. When mixed with seawater and left to sit, these plants would absorb salt while releasing cleaner liquid. The process wasn't perfect, but it reduced the saltiness enough to make water drinkable in emergencies. Marine plants basically became living filters. Let's not forget about those massive ship cannons sitting around doing nothing between battles. Experienced captains figured out they could use these metal beasts as heat exchangers for faster distillation. They'd run pipes through or around the cannon barrels, then heat the metal with fire. Seawater flowing through the system would turn to steam much quicker than traditional methods. The cannon's mass held heat longer too, making the whole process more efficient. Who knew weapons of war could save lives through water purification? And the weird part is what happened when ships reached colder northern waters. Pirates developed emergency ice melting techniques that were surprisingly sophisticated. They'd collect sea ice, which naturally contains less salt than liquid seawater, and melt it down in controlled batches. Fresh snow was even better, almost pure water just waiting to be melted. Some crews built special ice collection nets and scoops specifically for this purpose. These advanced methods separated the amateur pirates from the true survival experts. While landlubbers worried about finding treasure maps, seasoned pirates were mastering chemistry and physics without even knowing it. They turned their ships into floating laboratories where every experiment could mean the difference between life and death. The most successful pirate crews weren't just good at fighting. They were brilliant at staying alive through innovation, determination, and some seriously clever water wizardry.